Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Monday afternoon. Texas gets the hard-fought win on Saturday over Iowa State, 26-16. We will recap that game, get into a short week on a Friday game against Texas Tech, get into some Texas football talk. Of course, Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day. We'll play some sound from Hook 'em Up. Talk some Texas basketball, as well as Texas basketball gets a win that was too close for comfort against Louisville last night. Today, they are playing the defending national champions, the UConn Huskies. We'll talk a little NFL as well. And, of course, your text messages, 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776. The text line is open and running for you guys. You guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. Hopefully a good victory Monday, as my man Chief Engineer says. A good victory Monday. Texas got the win. It was not pretty. It was actually a little bit more fun to watch than the last couple weeks, where there was prettier parts of the game and it was more fun for parts. But then, of course, you end up having those big comebacks. Iowa State never able to pull that comeback off. Texas just kind of played them tough throughout the entire game. Texas was able to get a good, hard-fought victory against Iowa State. We got to see what looked early to be a Quinn Ewers that did not look sharp to start the game. I think he got warmed up and into it, and then Sark started to play that intermediate game a little bit more than he likes to do, and it worked out. They were able to pick up when they would get stuck on third downs. They were able to get some major third downs, and they were able to hold Iowa State out of those, picking up those third downs. Here's Sark's opening comments today when he spoke to the media, when he was talking about the Iowa State game.
Alrighty, quick recap of the ball game the other night. Going back through the tape, I thought our guys played a really good football game. I know we had some self-inflicted wounds in the first half that took 2 touchdowns off the board, and naturally, had the fumble inside the 10. But I thought our guys, did a great job keeping their poise and composure. Our defense continued to play well. We came out in the second half, and of our 5 possessions, 2 touchdowns, a field goal. We had the 1 punt, and then we finished the game with the ball in our possession at the end of the game. So really efficient second half. I thought that defensively, again, our ability to stop the run, to pretty much make them one-dimensional. And again, we gave up the 1 pop pass to the tight end there in short yardage, but I thought our defense had a heck of a game. I thought offensively the balance was there without, obviously not having Jonathan. I thought Cedric Baxter really showed up. It was a nice job by Jaden Blue and his ability to step into the fold. So all in all, I thought we played a really good game. Controlled the game, even just on our mindset, even into that fourth quarter. So again, I like the poise that our guys showed in that game when things clearly weren't going our way, and we were kind of stubbing our own toes there in the first half, but nobody panicked, and I thought that's a sign of maturity for our team. So that was a real positive there.
So let's start on the offensive end for Texas. This is a good team win. There is a couple of things that stood out. Quinn Ewers was able to go 23 for 33 in the game. He wasn't chunking the ball down the field the whole game, but just making makeable passes, was able to get it down. He didn't throw an interception, 2 touchdowns. I think there were points when he held on to it too long. That's how you get to the 4 sacks. But you're able to get Quinn Ewers in a rhythm. He feels okay, and put him into a situation where he looks like a good enough quarterback to go ahead and win you a bunch of games this year. And he's already, you're at 10 wins. Let's start there, too. We're at 10 wins for this Texas team, which is a great sign to see after all the years of not being able to get there. 10 wins, one of the things you wanted to see from this season was a 10-win season. You want to see them playing for the Big 12 championship, which, look, if I start going through the possible scenarios for the Big 12 championship right now, by Wednesday when I go off the air and we're giving you up for Thanksgiving, then we'll be done with all the possible scenarios. There's too many. There's too many possible scenarios. The basic solution for Texas, though, they're pretty far in. There's only one scenario, I believe, where Texas does not get to the Big 12 championship, and they can solve all of their problems of winning you're in. So that's what you want to see. But Quinn Ewers looking like a guy who can beat any team now because he started to figure out that high three down. Quinn was figuring it out. Sark was figuring it out. They were making the right passes in the right point, getting the players were able to make the catches. But more importantly than that, possibly more importantly than that, when you lose Brooks and you lose Jonathan Brooks and you wonder, is your running back room going to be ready to step up? We saw the answer. The running back room, not fully. Jaden Blue had 7 carries, didn't do great, but, he's still coming up, does not have a lot of game experience. The experience that C.J. Baxter had showed off. 20 attempts, 117 yards. He was averaging close to 6 yards a carry in that game. That's a really, really good sign for a couple things. One, that he can carry the ball 20 times in a game and stay in the game. And even though I believe there was at one point he did go into the medical tent, just get checked out, he came right back into the game. So seeing C.J. Baxter be able to be that guy and be able to stay in a game and then be able to come down at the end of the game and close the game for Texas, seeing that you still have a running back that is going to be able to play those moments. Now, you're going to play against a Texas Tech team. It's going to be difficult, and whoever you play in the Big 12 championship could be difficult. And depending on what happens in the next 2 weeks, we'll see if they are able to get in that college football playoff. No one lost again, so you're not really moving up. There is the Jordan Travis injury for Florida State, so that may open it up, but Washington didn't lose. Oregon didn't lose. Michigan didn't lose. Ohio State didn't lose, even though Michigan was tested for a little bit in there. Georgia didn't lose. So you didn't, no one ahead of you lost. So you're still going to have to go out there and win your last 2 games to have any hope of this, which you were going to have to do anyway. Just stay on what you do. Sark said it today. Win and you're in. That's the philosophy for the Big 12 championship. That's where you need to be. That's where your mind needs to be. But C.J. Baxter being able to be in this game and have that 100-yard game, have 20 carries, be able to finish out a game. Sark talked about C.J. Baxter being able to close out a game and still having that run threat for a Sark that really wants to run the ball to close out games and be able to pick up first downs and get the win.
Yeah, I thought CJ got stronger as the game went on. He had some really nice runs in the second half of that game, some physical runs. I think it's pretty safe to say, Iowa State's a really physical defense. They're an excellent defense. And there's hard yards in there, and they're physical in the secondary when they tackle. And I thought CJ did that and got stronger as the game went on. So that's really encouraging for us, knowing kind of what's in store for us as we move forward. But I'd also say I think some of that is a credit to the coaches of making the right adjustments and calling the right stuff that I think puts our players in a really good position too. And the players understand why we're calling what we're calling there. But again, I'm very impressed by CJ. I was really impressed by Jaden Blue. I know he didn't have some of the wow plays that maybe we were all kind of hoping, but the fact that he's in there on 4th and 1 at the end of the game to get that first down, I think speaks volumes to the development and the growth that he has as a player and how far he's come, where he was just kind of the highlight reel perimeter guy. It's all of a sudden he's running between the tackles on 4th and 1 to get a first down to seal the victory. So that was definitely encouraging as well.
So it is. Encouraging is the word. The running back room was very encouraging because you saw guys that are going to still be here next year, and we figured Jonathan Brooks will be back, but it will be not the beginning of the season possibly, depending on his recovery time. But to see what C.J. Baxter is already doing in his freshman season is very encouraging. To see Xavier Worthy have a good game, this would seem like a game where he was being used in the right places. He had the touchdown on the return. His return game's getting stronger. The touchdown gets called back, but that he broke that touchdown without the penalty. He didn't need the penalty that he got to play. So it's good to see them. And speaking of Xavier and speaking of all the guys who did leave the game with injuries, here's Sark's injury report from today, since we have not played that yet.
So injury-wise, I feel actually pretty good on a Monday. Coming out, it was a physical game Saturday night, and we had a variety of guys that kind of went down. I don't foresee any of those guys being out Friday. So, obviously we need to monitor that as the week goes. But I do feel, confident enough today that we'll have everybody that was available Saturday night will be available Friday night. And again, probably a better served question for a little later in the week when we really get to practice.
So, that's a good report. Everybody seems to be practicing. You'll know later in the week if somebody has a re-aggravation or if someone's not ready to go. Right now, it seems like everybody's going to be able to go. But offensively, it was a pretty positive game against a team that has given Texas trouble. It was a night game. It was not as cold as earlier predicted, so not that bad of weather. So you were able to do it, but it was a good enough game where you saw Texas not look dominant maybe offensively, but you saw Texas show that they can play against a defense that they're not normally good against. They did figure out some things. They were able to play the game in a way that they wanted to play conservatively, not trying to turn the ball over. Yes, there was a fumble, but you also were able to not turn the ball over too much that it became a major issue. You were able to also go 5 for, if I can pull this up again, 5 for 13 on third down. Not great, but you're getting better at third down because that's been an issue. You went 1 for 1 on fourth down. The bigger news is for that defense that held Iowa State to 3 for 11 on third down, was able to get off the field in a bend but don't break defense that has been criticized a lot this year because they are allowing. We saw too many slant passes. We saw all the things that we've been seeing that Texas fans are unhappy about. But for the most part, they never broke in this game. It was a bend but don't break. They had a big play to push Iowa State back that led to a missed field goal. The run defense, that defensive line and that run defense is second to none right now. Again, a total of net 9 yards is what Iowa State produced in that game. Under 10 yards net is what they're giving them. They're averaging under a half yard a carry in that game. That's what you want to see from a defense. And what Texas has built on this defensive line, what T'Vondre Sweat, man, when he went down, that was scary, and he comes right back on the field. But T'Vondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, how this defensive line is reacting to see the plays where David Benda gets in and makes a big play. Anthony Hill was actually playing really well, trying to get in there and pressuring the quarterback. I thought they brought pressure a lot better in this game, even if they weren't getting to the quarterback. They got 3 sacks, which is pretty good for a team that's only allowed 9 on the season. To get 3 in that game, you got a third of their entire season put on them right there. That's a good milestone right there to get against them. But more importantly, you are now telling every team that they are not going to be able to run the ball on you. We know going up against Texas Tech, they're going to want to run the ball. And if Texas can stop that run again, it does really limit what teams can do, and it limits them putting them in to more third and longs. And that's where they really were able to put Iowa State in their place and be able to control the game enough that Texas was able to hold Iowa State to enough third and longs that they were only 3 for 11 in that. And the secondary still has some issues. They are still trying to figure it out. They played well in run support, but again, that passing and the slant passes still got to them to an extent. They didn't break, though. And I believe that's kind of what we're going to have to expect with Texas from this point on is, look, if we're only going to allow 16 points on a road game, then we're going to be okay with them hitting some passes over the middle and them hitting some passes that are not big plays in 7, 8, 9-yard passes. Those are going to happen. I don't like seeing it any more than anybody else does, but at the same point, this is not a shutdown defense completely. They're a shutdown run defense. The defensive line is playing out of this world right now. But I don't know if the rest of the defense is going to be up to that level to go. But one of the things Sark talked about today that I want to play for you, and it's a bit lengthy, but he talked about the culture. And I think the culture is, T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy are a big part of that. And this defensive line, setting the culture at Texas for the defensive line going forward, setting the culture of this is a defensive line that will stop anybody. And it goes on the offense, it goes on the defense. But this was a tough game, and Texas played tough in a tough game and came out the tougher team. And I know I said tough too many times there, but that's something that you really want to see as you continue on in this season in the next few games when everyone's starting to get banged up, and every game you're feeling all your injuries, and it's getting colder, and you're playing against teams that now everything's on the line, and they're trying to spoil your season, and you're trying to do whatever you can do to get those wins. The toughness is going to be necessary. They were tough against Iowa State. They're the better team. They were the more talented team. They should have won. They could have probably won by more. But for how banged up this team is, I appreciate the fact that they were out there and they were tough. And Sark was asked by Anwar Richardson, he was asked about culture and what it meant to him, and more than just, the standard, well, your culture is this and your culture is, and how do you build it? But how has he built the culture that Texas is now a 10-win team in 3 seasons, where he's built them back up to where Texas wants to be? How did he build that culture, and what does it mean to him? A little bit long theme of an answer, but I think it's a good one here from Sark.
How long do I have? That's a tough. I need like a semester. I should teach a class. No, no. I think this. I think first of all, and that's a fair question and a good question. I think the first thing about culture is organic. It is not a sign up in your building. It's not a T-shirt you wear. It's not breaking the team down and saying, "Hey, culture on 3." I think culture is organic, right? It manifests itself with the relationships that you build. I think that there's things that we talk to in our culture that are of the utmost importance. Commitment is really important to our culture. Discipline is really important to our culture, right? Accountability is very important to our culture. Mental and physical toughness are very important to our culture. Love is very important to our culture. Vulnerability is very important to our culture. Transparency is really important to our culture. So that's just to name a few. But I can't just say those things. We have to live those things, and then we have to have teachable moments along the way, A, to celebrate the guys that are doing those things, B, point out when maybe we're not, and then how can we fix it, and then how do we correlate that? Because who you are some of the time is who you are all of the time. And so if you want to be a disciplined football team when you take the field each weekend, you have to be disciplined when you're off the field. How do how are we in school? How are we in community service? All of it all adds up to that becomes your culture, because that is who you are. That's how we go about everyday life. For example, when we have a team meeting and that meeting breaks, I have the same few guys that early on would make sure the team room was clean. There was no Gatorade bottles, there was no tape, there was no trash. And a couple of those guys' names were Roschon Johnson and Bijan Robinson. Well, that elevated to, when those guys were gone, the running back room was the ones that cleaned up the team room. To now, when we break a team meeting, everybody looks around. And so it has grown from 2 guys that has grown into more, to when we go to the movies on Friday nights before a ball game, if we have a night game, everybody chirps up, pick up your trash. So I know those sound like little things, but in the end, those are really big things to me, because that means that's the way we're thinking all of the time. And if we're doing those little things, and that's why I say to celebrate the small victories, I really celebrate that stuff, because I think those actions and that behavior leads to the big victories, leads to 1st and goal on the 5 and your defense has got to get 4 stops, leads to 3rd and 12 backed up on the road and you convert a 1st down. I think it leads to those guys counting on one another, relying on one another, because they're doing the right things on a daily basis. And we're not perfect, and I don't expect our guys to be perfect, but if they can be coachable on and off the field and they can learn from one another, then we will continue to grow and our culture will continue to grow. But it takes being vulnerable. It takes being transparent with one another. It takes getting to know one another so that you can have some empathy for what a guy's going through, not just on the field, but off the field, where he came from, what's going on in his life. And we have to share those things. And so in the summer, we do a lot of culture work every Wednesday morning. Now, Friday night, I do a culture exercise before. That's the last thing we do before we go get on the bus, whether it's to go to the hotel or to go get on the plane. Like, we invest a lot in that. And I think that obviously, to me, it's paying dividends, because I think culture beats talent if your culture is really strong. Culture and talent together is a pretty powerful force, and that's something that we've tried to create here.
Some good stuff from Sark there. A lot of good stuff about how he's built this team up and kind of the thought behind it and where they're trying to be the tough team that they want to be. and all the things that you realize take time to build. But yeah, when you say you're the person you are, who the person you are on sometimes is who you are all the time, and creating the people that always play tough and always play strong. And, that's not 100%. We've seen that in fourth quarters, but I love the way he put that. I thought it was good to play for you. All right. That being said, it's about time to get to that big fat poll.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Text line's open, 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776. A couple ones for you today. Easy one we do after the game. Who was your MVP? I'm assuming it's probably going to be someone on the defense. It could be CJ Baxter. But if you got someone there, put that in. Who's your MVP of the day? And what is your confidence level? Let's go scale of 1 to 10. What's your confidence level after getting 10 wins this season? Do you feel Texas is still do you have confidence? More confidence in this defense than maybe you had before? Maybe you have a little bit more confidence that yours is there. And CJ Baxter, do you have more confidence now? Are you feeling better about this Texas team after that Iowa State game? You get to 10 wins. You get a win on the road. You're at home now. You got a couple games left in the Big 12, hopefully a couple games, and hopefully the world doesn't fall on us. What's your confidence level? Scale of 1 to 10. If you want to expound on it, if you're more confident, less confident now, if you're the same, if that didn't change anything, what do you feel about? How are you feeling about this team after that win, getting another victory, getting the 10 wins this season? How do you feel about the Texas Longhorns football team right now? Put that in the text line. 512-447-3776. We come back. We'll play some sound from Hook 'em Up. We'll talk to you some of your text messages, and we will keep the sports complex rolling here on the Horn, 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the sports complex here on the Horn. Of course, the theme of the week is thankfulness and thank you and all the thanks and all the thanks songs. Just playing songs about thanks, like this by Led Zeppelin. It's thank you, keeping it easy on a holiday week. We'll be here through Wednesday, doing the show through Wednesday. The whole station will be off Thursday, and then of course a pregame show 4 to 6 on Friday with E and Rod B. So we're going to keep you up as much as we can throughout the week, but it is a holiday week. So I hope everybody has got plans, has got something that you're ready to do on the holidays. I'll tell you probably all week that I'll be at C-Boys on Thursday night too. So if you don't have anywhere else to celebrate and you want to hang out on a Thursday night, my buddy's ADH Project, the guys who do the intro music, those guys, they're playing a show on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night at C-Boys. So I'll be out there hanging out with them. So you can come say hey there. If you don't have anybody else to hang out with on Thanksgiving, go hang out with us over at C-Boys. But let's get to the text line, 512-447-3776. I want to play some sound from Hook 'em Up as well, talking about that 3-high, 3-down defense and how Sark is starting to figure out a way to get around it. It's been kind of been a hard point for him. So we're going to play that in just a minute, but I do want to get to some of the text line. This texter says, woo, Michigan up versus Ohio State for the control of the Little 10 to Life Conference. Winners get 5 years off their prison sentence. That is some strong feelings. I have no love lost for the Big Ten. I think that they're an overrated conference with 2 good teams and a bunch of terrible, terrible teams. I like the Big Ten or the Big 12 has a lot better, like the middle ground in the Big 12 where you get to the lower end, especially if you didn't add those 3 new teams. The Big 12 is pretty good. The Big 10, however, has not a lot of very good teams, and Iowa's like your 3rd best team, and they don't have an offense. So I have no love lost for the Big Ten, but I'm not going to call them criminals. I won't go that far. But and honestly, what's annoying is if Michigan wins that game, if Ohio State's still in the college football playoff, that's absurd. They just haven't. Notre Dame's not that great. Penn State's not that great. They played a bunch of nobodies in their conference. They didn't play a good non-conference. You can't put them in. At a certain point, just knock them out, and because then it's like Washington should be in over them any day of the week, right? Right? An undefeated Washington? I don't know, but we'll see. We can't worry about that until we get there. Bevo Angel says, finally one of the more complete games Texas has played. A little sloppy with turnovers and penalties, but overall a much better game plan. I like the grittiness of this team. They've shown true resilience. Now go take care of business against Tech and leave no doubt. And I'm going to say take care of business against Tech and then take care of business against whoever you're going to be playing. Again, there's so many different scenarios of who could be in this Big 12 championship game. But no, whoever you play against in that one too, because there isn't a team in the Big 12 that you shouldn't be able to go in there and beat. And I know you lost to Oklahoma. We've seen you should have beaten them too. They do not look that great of a team. I get it's a rivalry game, and rivalry games are different. I get all that. But that is but I'm with you. I like the ruggedness. I like that what they've come out and shown to be able to win the games. It does show something different in this team. Ewers hanging on to the ball too long. Texas struggled to beat a bad team. I don't think Iowa State, this is the thought. There's too many people that think if this team is not a 9-win team, they're a bad team. And that's just not the case. There are bad teams in football. Iowa State's not a bad team. They're not a good team. They're not a bad team. And if you want to go through life and want to watch college football, and your thought is there's only 10 good teams, and if you're not playing them, you should win by 90. You're never going to be happy watching college football. You should give it up. But if you want to enjoy college football, watch and go, man, Texas had some struggles. They had problems against this Iowa State team. I thought it was going to be closer than it was. I didn't think it'd be a 10-point win because I've watched college football enough this season, and I've watched what Texas does. I agree Ewers holding on to the ball too long. That point is more true. Ewers holding on to the ball too long. That is partially because this season he's gotten to be running. After the injury, he's not running. And so that progression, he's hoping for something to happen. He's trying not to go and get himself hurt more. So he's holding on to the ball for too long. He's kind of got to figure out a middle ground in between that. But it's because of the injury that he's not going to run the ball. On those other games, that would have probably been some of those sacks he took probably could have been positive gains. However, he's trying not to go out there and take another big hit. So that's why he was taking so many sacks and got those 4 sacks. But I agree with that point for sure. I like this. They average 16 inches per carry. That is true. And now let's be fair. That is because you add in sacks into rushing in college football. So with the sacks added on to it, then made it a 16-inch. But I'll take it. It's a hilarious stat. I appreciate you for sending that in, 16 inches per carry. Let's play a sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob B, talking about Sark trying to get through that 3 high, 3 down, and how Sark has kind of figured out. It's from Hook 'em Up, weekday morning, 6 to 11, right here on The Horn.
All right, Longhorns with a big win in Ames, Iowa, and you can tell the Longhorns had a lot of pride in that win. 26-16. It was ugly in the first half, but the Longhorns, I think they knew they were going to be in a bit of a fight here against Iowa State, and it wasn't going to be pretty. They just had to get the win. This is one of those times where I think Sark did a great job essentially giving Texas a schematic advantage in this game. Now, John Haycock is one of the best defensive minds in the country. As a matter of fact, Iowa State going into this game had a top 10 second half defense in the country. And then they were the best second half defense in the Big 12, better than Texas, because Texas second half defense, as we know, not as great. They've given up some stuff in the second half of games, especially when teams go pass first. But in this matchup, it's 6-3 going into the second half, and Sark has, I've been talking about this 3 high, 3 down for a while, and Sark has got to figure it out, right? He's got to find an antidote to it. I don't know if he needs to vanquish the 3 high, right? But he's definitely got to solve it, because he's going to see it so much. And he's seen it, 4 or 5 times already this season. Talking about Wyoming used it. Rice threw it out there for a couple of plays. U of H used it. Wyoming, it was their base. You got TCU, then you got K-State, and of course Iowa State. And you got one of the pioneers, John Haycock, who's one of the founding fathers of the 3 high, 3 down. And Texas scored right around what they're close to their average is when they go against 3 high, 3 down defenses, which is around 26 points. I mean, they're scoring close to a touchdown fewer points per game when they face 3 high, 3 down defenses. But this game, and I've been saying this for a while, you guys have heard me discuss the chess match within the game. This game is all about Sark becoming a chess master, having to match wits and outwit John Haycock. Because sometimes you don't play the hand, you play the man. Right, and there are times where you gotta be able to outwit the defensive coordinator or the offensive coordinator on the opposing sideline, and I thought Sark did that. I thought he became a chess master in this game, and there are a lot of things limiting the Texas offense. They, obviously had to deal with Jonathan Brooks and that Jay Brooks injury. There were some other guys getting nicked up early on in that game, and they couldn't find a rhythm. And we knew that was going to happen. I told you guys, without Jay Brooks, he's been the engine for that offense. They're probably going to struggle to find their rhythm early on. They may hit some shot plays here and there, but they're not going to find a groove. And they didn't really find a groove. And Quinn didn't find his groove really in the first half either. And I'll tell you what I saw in the second half, and it's only specific plays. They still really, not until they were closing the game out with that long drive with C.J. Baxter. I don't know. That's maybe the only time they really found a true groove in the game, in my opinion, where they actually found a rhythm offensively. But Sark was able to dial up specific plays, and I thought he did a great job. Now let's go talk about the first drive out of the halftime in the second half, where Texas, there are 2 plays I want to get into specifically here. One is a 2nd and 10, and you're talking about after the second quarter. So the first drive I take is 9-play touchdown drive, 91 yards.
Texas leads 6-3 at that time.
Yes, it's 6-3.
Defense gets a 3 and
Texas,
out.
No, they got
off the field.
Yeah, they got off the field. They made them punt. It was like 7 plays. They made them punt. And I say try to just control the ball. Texas gets the ball back. It is 6-3. And and you get a 21-yard run by C.J. Baxter early on in that drive on 2nd and 7. There's a 2nd and 10. And on the 2nd and 10, they go empty. Now, Sark has started out in empty, took my advice, or at least he agrees with my theory, when you're going up against 3 high, 3 down defense, which their unique strengths is to distort and disguise the defensive coverages and the fronts and the pressure packages really well. Probably better than other defensive displays or presentations. And you have to find a way to force that defense to abandon its disguise and distortion and declare itself. And empty, extreme formation, right? Extreme formations, extreme personnel packages, it forces you to do that. So Sark came out a lot in empty. But I think in the first half, his empty formation stuff, it was largely troubleshooting. I think he was just trying to figure out exactly how John Haycock and Iowa State wanted to attack Texas. And in the second half, he came out with some adjustments to some of his extreme formations. An empty formation was one he used a lot in the first half, but he didn't really have a lot of success. Matter of fact, Texas took some sacks, a couple of sacks, I believe, on those empty formations because Quinn wasn't great when they took his first read away. And when you get Quinn deeper into progressions, as we know, that's when Quinn struggles, when he's holding on to the ball, starts patting the ball, and then he looks a little erratic, right? He looks a little discombobulated in the pocket. And they got to Quinn. They got to him 4 times. 2 of those actually were in empty, which is counterintuitive, guys, because empty formation, from all of my studies, the sack rates drop in empty, right? Because the ball's coming out quick. And when you're holding on to the ball, something went wrong in empty. You're supposed to be holding on to the ball. The ball's supposed to be out, right? Because you don't have pass protection. So Sark's adjustment in empty formation on this play, 2nd and 10, he had X in the slot. He had X run, essentially X-Man. He ran a fake stop on the drag route. He has basically a hesitation drag route, and the hesitation was key, and it was a change up. Now, I'm not sure if Sark made this adjustment or it could have been a slight adjustment by X-Man and Quinn. I hope it's the latter, but either way, it doesn't matter. They came out in the second half, and like I said, they won the chess match within the game. And the Iowa State defenders, right, their key is, if this guy is coming down the drag route and he stops, he's my man, I'm going to match him because he's the only guy in my zone. But if he continues, I'm going to pass him off. So essentially, when X-Man comes out and he does the hesitation, he stops, and then he ends up continuing. Essentially, it threw off all the keys for the Iowa State defender. He thought he was going to match him, and he came to match him, and X-Man continues on the zone, and he didn't pass him off in the zone because the other defender thought he was stopping, and the other defender continued to find work. The guy he was going to pass him off to in the zone, he went to go find work. Why? Because, the guy, he already stopped. He's going to get matched by that linebacker. So I can go find work and I can drift. And when he drifted, X-Man went right to that spot, that void that he drifted away from. It's a simple sight adjustment, but it got him a 19-yard gain on empty. And it was all about getting Quinn to buy some time in the pocket. Quinn was already doing that, but when he was buying time in the pocket, he wasn't going through his progressions well enough and effective enough. So what did Sark do? Sark said, okay, I know my quarterback isn't great deep into progression reads. He's just not. We all know that. We've talked about how Quinn's a first read thrower, right? First window thrower. So I'm going to give him a predetermined throw. I'm going to give him X-Man, but I'm going to essentially make it an option route. He still knows X-Man is his read, but I'm going to clear up X-Man. If X-Man's wide open when they run that stop route, hell, X-Man, just stay right there. You're wide open. And he's still your read. But if you're not, and that linebacker does try to match you, then stop, hesitation, continue. All right, and then that was the side adjustment. It was a 19-yard gain. It was beautiful, and it was probably the most successful empty formation play they ran. Because the empty formation plays, although exposing the 3 high, forcing it to declare itself, it didn't actually get you a lot of chunk yardage plays. You didn't have the explosive play factor because he was just troubleshooting. He was trying to actually see, all right, and stress that defense to see exactly where the vulnerabilities were. And he found one in the second half. He found another one. Right, on that same drive, the Jay Witt touchdown play, which was stalk, block, and go. Once again, using the keys of a fundamentally sound, assignment sound defense against him. Right, so when he goes to stalk, block, and go on that touchdown play for Jay Witt, was it 3rd and 1?
Yeah, after a bad spot, by the way, by the official.
It was a bad spot. 3rd and 1, you're going 12 personnel, so you got 2 tight ends in there, and you're going 2x2 sets with an offset wing. Everything says run. It all says run. Everything's body language, and even the Jay Witt stalk, block, and go. Beautiful body language by Jay Witt. And you use the keys of Iowa State defenders against him. They're all thinking, all right, this guy's coming to block me. If he's coming to block me, that defender on the outside who's responsible for Jay Witt, you pass him off because he's going to block the defender. You become the forced defender on the outside. And it's just what that DB was thinking. All right, you go crack, crack, crack. That means you're going to crack the inside linebacker. I'm going to feel the void there. I'm going to feel enforced run defense on the outside. That's what he went to do, and that's all the hesitation. That's all the little bit of a delay, if you will, that Jay Witt needed, and boom, he's wide open. These are small little things, and by the way, it doesn't cause, at least it doesn't need your quarterback to have to go through a deep progression. It's still one read. One window, first window throws, right? That's a first window throw. The Gunnar Helm play, right? Gunnar Helm runs what essentially is a drag wheel route to the opposite side of the formation. 30 ends up being a 30-plus yard touchdown. That's on 1st and 10, and it's from a quads. They go from quads, extreme formation, right, and motion to 2x2 with the offset wing. They go play action, and he also, stalk, block, and go. All right, so if you go stalk, block, and go, the defender's going to pass you off so he can go force run defense. He's thinking he's a blocker. I'm going to run defend. And once again, using the keys of the Iowa State defenders against him, yeah, sometimes your eyes do lie to you, and he gets an easy 31-yard touchdown. But the key is you're not forcing your quarterback to go through a progression anymore. These are still first read, predetermined throws beforehand. Gunnar Helm's my guy. I'm going to get him open. All right, I'm going to scheme him open with wide window throws, but I'm not going to force my quarterback to go through a progression because against the 3 high, that's when Quinn was getting in trouble. That's when he was holding on to the ball, getting sacked. And usually he checks down really early in that route combination and doesn't even go through the progression. And that's when Sark decided, all right, I can get deep downfield, no progression throws, predetermined reads, first window reads, but I got to scheme him open. And he did it multiple times. It was brilliant. He also did on that PI with the double move with A.D. Mitchell. Should have been a touchdown, but it was a bad throw. Still got your PI call. Those are 4 plays in the second half. We did the same thing. First window throws, predetermined throws for your quarterback because I don't trust him going through progressions against this 3 high, 3 down defense. And it was a brilliant adjustment.
Great game plan, and that's probably why he didn't argue the 3rd and 1 spot. And it looked like A.D. Mitchell had gotten the first down on that play, didn't even challenge it, just came out and kind of felt like he had a play. And
yeah,
it's to fake the block is a great one for Jordan Whittington because he's such a good blocker. It would make sense that he'd be blocking in a run play like that because he doesn't mind sticking his head in there. Great play calling by Sark. Longhorns get the win because, to your point, Quinn had taken 4 sacks in the first half because he was going through the progressions and tapping the ball, and they brought extra people a couple times on those. And that team was 113th in sack rate in the country. Yet they had 4 sacks in the first half, none in the second half as they cleaned it up, and give Sark a lot of credit right there. Longhorns get the win 26-16, 4 huge plays that really separated the game on top of the great defense from the front interior.
Good stuff there from Hook 'em Up with E and Rob B talking about that 3 high, 3 down, the adjustments in the game. Good to see them make positive adjustments in the second half. Text line's open, 512-447-3776. We got your regular poll on a Monday after a game is who was your MVP. So tell us who was your MVP in that game. And what is your confidence level? After getting to 10 wins, after getting an Iowa State win, you got to win with Ames, which has not been easy to do for the Texas Longhorns recently. Scale 1 to 10. What's your confidence level for this Texas team right now? How are you feeling about Texas right now? I know it wasn't Iowa State's not the best team in the conference, but they're no pushover. They've been giving us trouble for years. What's your confidence level in this Texas team right now, in Sark and the coaching staff and the players? What's your confidence level? Scale 1 to 10. Send that in the text line, 512-447-3776. We come back, get into more of those texts right here on the Sports Complex, the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex, playing songs with thanks in the title or songs about thankful or whatever you got for us on the Sports Complex this week because it is Thanksgiving week. A text line's open. 512-447-3776 is the text line phone number. And let's get back over to that text line asking you today who your MVP was for the game. What's your confidence level? Scale of 1 to 10 in this team. How you feeling about this team right now? And a 10-win season. It's a 10-win season for the Longhorns. How you feeling about that? Let's go to the text line. Our man, Chief Engineer, says a 5-star Texas team finally showed its 5-star grit and determination all game long. Love that. The MVP D-line, 9 yards rushing. Yes, 9 yards. 0.4 average per carry. I don't think I could do that in Madden. I will say, to be fair to Iowa State, they did gain 33 yards in rushing. They just also lost 24 yards on those sacks and negative run plays. So it evened out to 9 yards. But even if you just said they were only allowed to gain 33 yards throughout that game rushing, it is still an impressive stat. So impressive all the way around for Texas. And the confidence level for you is 7. Really hopeful, but also a longtime fan that has seen the team completely play flat when they should not. Term is cautiously optimistic, and I think Sark has a grip on it. But you see what happens when the team starts believing in the hype. Hello, Colorado. Come on. It was a long time ago, and I know it's painful, and I still remember the pain. But yes, I do remember that as well. Let's go back on the text line. Same confidence. Trajectory can't be ignored, but still clean up in areas like pass defense, slants, and is PK's nightmares. Yeah, there's still plenty that Texas needs to work on. I'm not saying that you were going to say, for me, 10 is not necessarily this team is Georgia national championship, won 28 straight games. It's not that to me. The confidence level is okay. I feel confident this team can beat Tech. I feel they can beat whoever they play in the Big 12 championship game. The confidence level would not be a 10 because I don't feel if you made it to the college football playoff, that may be more difficult depending on what team you play, where you're going to be at. But I do have a good confidence level. My confidence level right now is probably an 8.5, 9. I feel pretty confident in this team to go out and pull out wins. I know Texas Tech is a team that just likes to play spoiler. I know that there's a lot riding on it. There's a lot going into it, and we'll get into it more as the week goes on. We'll get more into the Texas Tech game and the issues that come with the Thanksgiving Day game and all of that. But I have a lot of confidence. This texter says the MVP is D-line. Chan says the MVP is Texas defense. Kept ISU at bay every time they answered our scoring. And thanks for Sark's message. Well said. I think it's that he went through basically personally morphed with Sark and his character and beliefs. Appreciate you, Chan. Vintage Scott. So he's not just Scott, he's vintage Scott. 9 out of 10 confidence level that we win our next 2 games, increased from a 7. Reasons: coaching staff improving, Quinn managing game, O-line depth, D-line dominance. MVP of the last game, Tavondre Sweat. What a great story. 3-star guy from a small town going pro. Speaks well of our coaching and his dedication. That is a great point. It's a great point, Scott, of this team. This is another thing that raises confidence. I feel like this is the first time since Mac Brown and that coaching staff that we've really felt that our players are getting better as they're at Texas. Players are improving. Players are getting better and having better seasons. And we believe that when we get in 5-star guys, they turn out to be 5-star players as opposed to somewhat of what had been happening in the last few years. All right, we got more texts to get to. We're going to get to them in the 6 o'clock hour. We're also going to talk some Texas basketball. They get a close win over Louisville last night, about to go up against UConn tonight, the defending national champions. We'll talk about that as well. NFL, big Sunday happened. Cowboys get a win. Texans get a win. Some coaches still have jobs, which is mind-bogglingly. I don't get it. We'll get into all of that. And Monday Night Football as well, right when we come back on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 2 on the Sports Complex on a Monday afternoon. Going to talk some Texas basketball before they tip off here in a few minutes against the defending national champion UConn Huskies in a big game at Madison Square Garden. We'll talk some Texas basketball, their game last night that got them to here. We'll also talk some NFL and get to some hook 'em up, and as well as all of your texts. 512-447-3776 is the text line. 512-447-3776. You guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. And so whatever you guys want to talk about, your takes, your hot takes, send those in. We're also asking you for the MVP of the game for Texas versus Iowa State. We're also asking you, what's your confidence level? Scale of 1 to 10 with this team right now going into the last few games of the season. Send all that stuff in. We got some good ones. Happy holidays, fella. Looking for the Rockets to bounce back tonight. The Rockets playing again tonight. Spurs playing again. Spurs are playing the Clippers tonight, and see if the Clippers can continue to play better than they have been playing recently. The Rockets will be in action. We don't get those ugly cords. They're playing the Warriors tonight, and we know no Draymond. I don't know if Steph's in that game or not. I've not kept up enough to know if Steph is going to be into that game or not. But yeah, the Rockets are looking good. They, we saw it that we played the sound earlier about Sark talking about culture. Ime is implementing his now. It's going to take a little bit of time. You bring in some new players, but they're definitely further along than you would have expected this early into the season for how bad they looked last season. We got WPI parts guy. Glad I was on about Sweat and Jay Witt and some special teams points. Loving them horns and working overtime tonight, but I still got my horn app playing. Appreciate that, WPI parts guy. Damn, Rod is a football textbook, this texter says. Yes, he is. Rod is always one of my favorite people to have a football conversation because he can go so in depth and letting you know things that can explain things on the field that a lot of other guys, even if they know them, have a hard time explaining. Scarlett says, I was actually quite confident starting the second quarter. The defense was a brick wall minus the annoying slants. Baxter was very impressive with his patience, and I knew Quinn was just going to break through. The penalty took away an 80 touchdown. X-Man fumble in the red zone. I just knew Texas was going to pull away in the second half, and Iowa State really didn't have much of a shot. We also missed a touchdown on the Xavier Worthy running in. If that shouldn't have, I get it's a penalty. It was a penalty, but it didn't affect the play. So, yes, you lose, but you just lose a touchdown. It's an unfortunate way to lose a touchdown. I don't want to say it shouldn't have been called because it should have. I'm saying that it was an unfortunate way to lose it. Big defensive lineman MVP for sure. Keep those texts coming. 512-447-3776. Texas basketball tipping off here in a few minutes against the UConn Huskies. If you missed the game yesterday, they played against Louisville. They're the Empire Classic at Madison Square Garden. It's basically a 4-game little tournament. You have the winner's bracket and the loser's bracket. Texas gets into the winner's bracket with a win over Louisville. UConn handled Indiana in game 1 of their game, so they play tonight just in a few minutes. But Texas gets a win 81-80. It was not Texas' best effort in this game, but they did power through. They showed determination, and a big game-winning shot from Max Abmas is what wins the game. With 0.4 seconds left on the clock, Texas and Max Abmas hit the shot. A couple takes away. Max Abmas, this was his worst game with Texas so far, at least shooting-wise. 6 of 19. Nobody shot well in this game. It is playing in a different arena. There's going to be a point of this in road games. Why you kind of want to get road tested is when you're playing early in the season, you may not be playing in enough different gyms, and you kind of get used to your shot. It may take you a little while to get used to it on the road. Just get the shot down and different. Texas was never really comfortable doing it. Louisville did bring pressure. They brought it for you. But Texas, 2 of 17 from 3 in that game, did not hit a three-pointer in the second half. This is a team that's set up with guys like Tyrese Hunter, guys like Max Abmas, guys like IT Horton that are supposed to be three-point shooters. They're guys that you want to be able to get the three-point ball. It helps you out to play inside out if you have that three-point shooter. They were just not able to hit them. They were getting open ones because they were going inside, and man, did Caden Shedrick have a game. That transfer right now is huge, and it's especially huge because Dylan Disu is still out. When Dylan Disu comes back, it'll be interesting to see how they play together. That'll be something that's going to take a little bit of time to get used to. So there will be another kind of change for this team when Dylan Disu comes back. But Caden Shedrick, He gets the free throw line again, 9 free throws in the game, scores 27 points on 11 of 15 shooting, just going inside, playing good defense. Both of their big men for Louisville end up fouling out, trying to guard him. He just goes in with toughness, plays through the pain. His minutes are supposed to be somewhat limited. He still played 27 minutes because they needed him out there in that game. Dylan Mitchell also in this game, not great shooting, but did get 5 of 6 from the free throw line. It's good to see him getting to the free throw line, because Dylan Mitchell is going to continue to need to get to the free throw line if Texas is going to have success, because his scoring, while it's kind of growing and while his shooting is kind of growing, he didn't take a three. He's trying to drive. He's trying to drive and create layups and dunks. He did miss a big layup in that game as well that he should have probably hit. But if Dylan Mitchell is going to be someone who's a cutter who can go in there and finish above the rim, he's also going to need to be someone who can finish at the free throw line and get to the free throw line. He showed that he was able to do that, getting 5 of 6. They did call the game pretty tight, so it was a little bit easier to get to the free throw line. Brock Cunningham, of course, is really just playing that glue guy. He was in the starting lineup for this game. We'll see. He basically replaced IT Horton. They're trying to figure out the lineup. They haven't had the same starting lineup, I don't believe, in any of the games so far this year. So they're changing it up, keeping it going. IT Horton did come off the bench. IT Horton, he did play about 30 minutes, though. So he played more minutes than Tyrese Hunter. He played more minutes than Dylan Mitchell. He did play a lot of minutes. His defense is still a work in progress. They needed shooting, though. He was 5-11 from the field, just couldn't hit a three in that game as well. And we saw Nyema and Kendall Weaver get some good minutes in that game as well. But yeah, and I think one of the biggest things is even though their shooting wasn't good, and you can look at that as probably not the best game Texas played, and hopefully they'll play better tonight against UConn, they did only turn the ball over 5 times in the game. So they were smarter with the basketball, which is a big thing for this Texas team. We know that they had been turning the ball over a lot. Rodney Terry wanted to keep them under 10. They went at 5 in this game, which is a big thing to get to for Texas, is to stop those turnovers when you're trying to play fast pace, when you're trying to run the ball. But Caden Shindrick, that is the guy that came out of that game. 27 points in that game. He is going to be a big part of Texas' success. You can tell at Virginia, he just didn't really fit into that offense, because he does not seem to have a problem fitting into Rodney Terry's offense at all. They're going in to play UConn right now. 6.5-point favorites are UConn. I kind of thought it'd be a little bit more, but Texas in there. We'll see how they match up. This is going to be a tough game for Texas, but a really good kind of basis point, a really good litmus test that you want to see early. It's on the road. You're playing at Madison Square Garden. These are the games. Max Abmas hits that game winner. Hopefully that gives him a little bit more confidence going into the game. The game today's shooting. Believe me, he doesn't lack for confidence. He still put up 19 shots in that game. But you want to see Max Abmas play really well in this game. These are the games that you come to Texas to play. When you're at Oral Roberts, you say, I want to play the defending national champions in Madison Square Garden. That's a game that you come to a big school to go play. And so it's going to be a fun game for the Texas players. A little litmus test. We'll keep you updated with the score as the game continues to go on for Texas. Let's get back to the text line, and then I'll get to some NFL talk as well. Piper says, I like the game plan and the execution. Without the 2 penalties and the fumble, I believe this game is a blowout. Credit to the coaches and players. Never felt like the game was in doubt. And I think that's it, Piper. You put it there. It never felt like the game was in doubt. It felt like it was not going perfectly. It felt like there was some problems, but it never really felt like Iowa State was pushing you like the way K-State did, the way TCU did in that second half. The second half of this game felt like Texas thoroughly won it. So in the first half, they were trying not to lose the game. They had a couple penalties and get those called back, but they could be up 20 at half. And you wonder if they were up 20 to 3 at half, is this a game that changes because now they play a little bit more conservative in that second half? You'd like to see them take that second half and do that going forward, even if you have the lead. But I agree with you there, Piper. I like that. Average Joe says, what channel is the Horns Hoop game on tonight? You can listen to me here, keep talking, but I believe it's going to be on ESPNU. If you want to know, ESPNU is where it will be. Texas Tech game confidence is a 10. Big 12 championship game confidence is an 8. MVP of the Iowa State game is Sweat. Yes, Sweat. Man, when he went down with that injury, wasn't there just that gasp, and he got up and got back into the game? It felt really, really good. Shannon asked, are we going to get destroyed by UConn? I don't think we'll get destroyed. If we shoot like we did last night, it's a possibility. You cannot go 2 for 17 from the 3-point range. You're going to have to hit some of those threes. But I think Max Abmas is going to be a little bit more confident. You hit that big game winner. Nothing like that to get you going in the game. So I'd like to see him and IT Horton shoot the ball a little bit better. If Tyrese Hunter can shoot the ball too, then this game could be, could really get going, but you're going to have to hit your threes. That's the reality. Nate says, I've seen worse against lesser opponents. Take the 10-and-run record and smoke it. Yes, and now we know that Snoop is still smoking weed. He just was doing an ad for a smokeless smoker or a smokeless fire pit, which I've heard still has smoke. But the commercials look great. The commercials look like there's none at all. And this texter says, after Saturday night, Matt Campbell proved himself to be a 5-star punk. I just think he found, this is why he's not getting those phone calls anymore. Because he was outcoached by Sark, which maybe some other coaches have outcoached Sark this year. Maybe they have. I don't know. That's up to interpretation. Text line's open. 512-447-3776. If you have a confidence level between 1 and 10 for Texas, send that in. If you got an MVP vote for Texas for the game on Iowa State, send that in as well. We're going to get to some NFL. If you got any NFL talk, please send that in as well. NFL talk, we're going to get into it a little bit. There wasn't a lot to talk about, let's say, Cowboys-wise. Cowboys win 33-10. I think the big thing to say for this Cowboys game, there's a couple points in it I'll get to, is the Cowboys. Rico Dowdle did not look great again. He looks like he's getting up and he's going down. I don't know if he's going to be the solution there. I'd still, if I'm the Cowboys, I know it's late, I'd still be seeing if there's another guy out there. If I can find someone in free agency, I know people really like Rico Dowdle, but you saw him get used a little bit more there. Got 8 carries for 23 yards. It's 2.9 yards per carry. It's just not going to get it done, but they did try and give him some more. They only, it was 8 carries. Tony Pollard only got 12. I know he's a feature back, and you'd like to have the guy. Rico Dowdle's not the guy either. So you have to figure out somebody that can go with Tony Pollard. If you're only going to give Tony Pollard 10 carries, try and give him the ball in the air. I don't like that either, personally, long term, especially when you're winning, 33-10. But they didn't need a ton of offense. Deron Bland looked really good in that game. A pick 6. Deron Bland is showing out right now with Trayvon Diggs out. They are just continuing to get better and better. That defense is looking really good. You got another game next week that's very winnable against the Commanders. You'd like to see them go stomp them as well, because then that 5-game stretch that's coming up is going to be a little scary. We know that 5-game stretch could be rough. So you want to get it out now and get those wins now. The Texans beat the Cardinals 21-16. This is CJ Stroud's probably worst game. 3 interceptions in the game. One of those at least was a tip drill, so it wasn't all of them. One of them was a really good play. But, you're going to have those games. And the fact that the Texans were still able to win, that was a really good sign. Singletary stepping up in Dameon Pierce's absence has really stepped up and been a huge signing for this Texans team. Tank Dell. I mean, just if you look at the draft picks that the Texans had in this draft, it is mind-bogglingly, like, they've clearly won the draft as of right now. Will Anderson's playing at a really high level. CJ Stroud is playing at an MVP level, minus the 3 interceptions. We knew it was coming once the MVP talk, right? We knew that he was going to have his worst game of the year. And then Tank Dell, you get him picked up, which is apparently a CJ Stroud recommendation. Huge pickup there for the Texans. And then to get the guys, what DeMeco Ryans is doing is changing this defense. And the defense was good. I like Lovie Smith. I think he did okay with this team. But Blake Cashman was a guy who's kind of growing up last year and looked like he could be important. 19 tackles is what he had in the game against the Cardinals. He was everywhere on that field. Blake Cashman had a great game. Great to see the Texans. They're 6-4, playing a huge game against a 7-3 Jacksonville this week. That'll be a fun one to watch, to see in the AFC South, to see where the power lies. If Jacksonville, who's playing better now, Texans went in when they were, still coming up, playing there in Jacksonville earlier this year. Jacksonville looked better than they did earlier. So we'll see what happens in that game, but that's going to be a fun one to watch coming up this week. I will say again, how does Brandon Staley still have a job? Joey Bosa now is going on IR with a sprained foot. But he came out and complained afterwards because they asked him if he was going to give up defensive play calling. Well, the defense didn't cost us a game. You're the head coach, and your team sucks, and they shouldn't. There's a lot of talent on that team. I don't know why Brandon Staley still has a job. My only thought is that they're just going to keep him because they don't want to hire anybody else during the season, and maybe have him work out because they want to go sign somebody else. That there's still the talk. If Belichick's out, that seems like a team Belichick could come in and do some damage with. In San Diego or in LA now. Seems like a team he could. I don't know how many hoodies he can wear in LA, but I'm just saying, if you want to go make a splash, that might be a team. And tonight we get a big Monday Night Football matchup. Once you get done watching the Texas basketball game, check out the big Eagles versus Chiefs, a Super Bowl rematch in Week 11 in the NFL. It is an awesome matchup. Chiefs are favored by 2.5 points. I know we're going to get all the Taylor Swift talk. Nobody cares. But this is going to be a great matchup to see where both these teams are going into Week 11, seeing how they look going into the holiday break and getting ready for football over Thanksgiving. And it's going to be a really fun game tonight. I'm looking forward to it. I think the Chiefs are going to be able to pull this one out, but the Eagles defense looks so good. I just can't ever seem to bet against the Chiefs at home. But I'm looking forward to this game tonight. It's probably one of the best Monday Night Football games we've had in a while. We had a great, I thought Thursday night was going to be a good game. That one didn't turn out to be. Some injuries. New report, though, Mark Andrews possibly not done for the year. So that's good to see. But yeah, Eagles-Chiefs tonight is going to be a fun game. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more of your text, 512-447-3776. We're asking what your confidence level is after getting the 10 wins. We're asking you who your MVP was. Also, if you got any NFL talk, any NFL takes, send those in. And we'll talk some NFL with you as well. Our Texas basketball, if you've got some Texas basketball you want to talk about, send that in, 512-447-3776. Love to talk about those things with you on the text line. You guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. And we'll play you some more sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob B. All coming up here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. now is definitely going to be an issue for this Texas team going against a really good UConn. But, it's an early season game. It's a good test. It's got a lot of stuff you're going to be able to work on after this game. They may still be able to come back, but down early, 24-11, this Texas team is. Let's get back to text line 512-447-3776. Thoughts from Saturday's game, and I will try to keep it positive. Overall, I think it was excellently managed and played. Here's my issue. You want to be a major player, national champion contender, yet the 3 of the last 4 games, we should have blown out the other teams. We didn't this game, especially since they were egging us on before the game. I felt the last couple of minutes you should have scored an extra touchdown to kind of dog them and give us a little bit more pull and look better. I get it. That's never going to happen with Sark. It's not. I mean, now you may start blowing out teams because you blow them out in the first 2 quarters and 3 quarters, but he is never going to run up the score late. He's just not that guy. He comes from a Nick Saban that doesn't do that. He comes from a Pete Carroll that didn't do that. You win those games in the first 3 quarters. He's not going to run up the game late. I get it. Michigan wasn't blowing out Maryland, and you're going to see those games. I get it. But that, the style points, it'd be nice to have, but you need to have those style points in the first half. The fact you were 6-3 in the first half doesn't mean nothing. That if you put up, 25 garbage points, it doesn't really mean anything, because those college football playoff committee will still go, well, there was 3-6 at the half, and what they scored 25 points in the fourth quarter. That doesn't, so Iowa State gave up and you just scored on them. I get it, but I don't think it means the same thing. But it was a good, hard-fought win. I don't know if you could have. I think you're putting a chance of throwing an interception, and now you win the game by 3, and the game looks worse. So you just kind of take the ball and get the win and get to 10 points, and it feels good. Coach Rodney from Rosebud Lot said, 10-1, baby. 1 game at a time. I'm loving it regardless of how we're getting there. I love the attitude there. And Scarlett does say, congratulations, Jimmy Johnson. It was good to see that. I don't know why he did it in a road game. I don't know why he did it before the Panthers. I feel like he knew he could get a win on the Panthers, but doing it like 20 minutes before a road game seemed weird. But, I mean, it needs to be done. Maybe he wants to break the curse and do it. We'll see if it sticks. You said, it's December 30th or something like that? Is that what it is? We still have a month for Jerry Jones to somehow back out of doing this some way? I don't know. I have no faith in Jerry Jones to do anything the right way, but we'll see. Maybe he will. Texas still down 24-11 in that game. We'll keep you updated with their game against UConn. But, of course, Caden Shedrick is out of the game after playing close to 30 minutes in the last game. He was getting kind of beat up with his shoulder. We know it's surgically repaired over the offseason. I think they're just doing the smart thing and keeping him where he's going to be a little bit healthier. So not congrats. But I think it's a good move for Rodney Terry. Text line still open, 512-447-3776. Do want to play this sound, though, from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob-B, breaking down some more of the Iowa State game as we get into it in a short week here on the Sports Complex. It's Hook 'em Up, weekday morning 6 to 11 right here on the Horn. It's Aaron Rod breaking down Iowa State.
Yeah, we didn't get into the most remarkable stat. Obviously, we just got into the Texas win over Iowa State. The most remarkable stat from the game is the 9 yards rushing that the Texas defense held Iowa State to. 9 rushing yards total. That's one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen from a Texas defense. I played on some really good dominant defenses. That's incredible. And you did that on the road against Iowa State, a team that wants to run the football. They aren't a dominant running team by any stretch, but man, I don't give a damn if you're holding any team to single digits rushing. That is quite a feat. So you're talking about this. Probably this is the second best rush defense for Texas football in the last 15 years. This is the second best rush defense behind the 2009 rush defense. You hadn't had one this good since then.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it after the Kansas State game. Kansas State came in as the best rushing team in the Big 12, and they throttled the run game, made them go pass. And in this game, same thing. I mean, we all wondered aloud, well, why Gerard Hufford, the offensive guard for Iowa State, decided to poke the bear, decided to talk out and talk about Texas culture and ego.
And why Gerard?
And Tavondre Sweat, clearly. I mean, we'll hear it coming up, but Steve Sarkisian, made his captains for the game were Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. And Sark said that was very intentional, that he wanted those two guys to walk to the middle of the field and you kind of stare down the Iowa State sidelines and let them know what they were in for. And those two guys backed it up every bit of the way. for sure. The run defense, Jalen Ford was really good, but T'Vondre Sweat is playing as good as any defensive player in the country right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go across the country. I don't know that you're going to find a defensive player that's playing more consistently and more consistently dominant, Rod.
No, you're not. I mean, he had that blocked extra point. He had a pass deflection. I mean, he was causing havoc the entire game. If you go back and watch him, he really was. And he gave, I believe that batted pass he had was against Jared Hufford.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. And the blocked extra point was also against Jared Hufford. I have no idea why the young man did what he did. Why he came out and decided to talk trash to arguably Texas and the best D tackle room in the country and arguably the best D tackle in the country in T'Vondre Sweat. But he did, and thank God he did. Good. If he did not, honestly, this team would have came out focused. T'Vondre Sweat would have still done the same thing he did. But it was obvious. You go look at the comments the guys made, right? Jalen Ford, his comment after the game his quote is his tweet is going to be one heck of a farewell present. They are going to come in here on senior night in the dark. I don't think they really know what is going to be coming for them, end quote. He's quoting Jared Hufford. Xavier Worthy, yeah, we got an ego for show, and we got a culture and the talent to never be loud and wrong. And he added Jared Hufford on it. He actually tagged him. Yeah. Hope you had a good senior night, though.
That's a kind thing to say.
Yes, at least he was being courteous. Byron Murphy tweeted out 9 yards rushing with the curious emoji. Said ... That's all. Don't write no check. You can't cash, little guy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It obviously meant something to them to be disrespected like that. And the good news is Texas Tech has also given you very similar bulletin board material because they gave you stuff from way, way back in the offseason and after their win over Texas last year. So you got more bulletin board material. Not that they need it. They don't need extra motivation for this.
You know, we'll re-rack it this week, and we'll hear Brett Yormark, and we'll hear Joey McGuire, and that'll be out there this week, headed up to Friday's game. And, you know, it is good. The Longhorns have not locked up a spot in the Big 12 title game. They need, just handle your business. Keep playing focused football.
Yep.
And with that run defense, if they do make the Big 12 title game with a win Friday, they're still most likely, it's not secure yet, but most likely to play Oklahoma State. That would give you a lot of confidence in that game because the strength of Oklahoma State is the run game.
It is.
With Ollie Gordon, the great running back for Oklahoma State. So, Byron Murphy, you mentioned his tweet. His play on a big 3rd and 8 late in the game where he just bull rushed the center and sacked the quarterback, like ripped him down like Godzilla, just grabbed him and yanked him down, ragdolled the quarterback. Yeah. That set up that 4th and 17. And once they got off the field there, that game was just about running out the clock, and they did that. Defensive front was great. Now the secondary still has issues. We know that they gave up over 330 yards to Rocco Beck. They still struggle with inside breaking routes and coverages and things. But again, enjoy this team. They're 10-1 for the first time since 2009. They have a chance to win a Big 12 title in the game. And look, they're sitting in the mix with the big picture. They really are. Whether they, they are as good as Georgia or as good as some of the top teams. You play yourself into those conversations. And right now with what's happening at Michigan, to me, big picture in college football, Rod, there's going to be a real conversation this week because Friday after our show, was when the Athletic reported, and then there were multiple reports of really got to the bottom of why Michigan, accepted the suspension for Jim Harbaugh and decided not to go to court. New information from the NCAA delivered to Michigan saying, "Hey guys, you really don't want to fight this. We've kind of got you dead to rights here." And the information led to the firing of a linebackers coach, also the reporting of a booster. Uncle T, who was maybe funding Connor Stallions in the sign-stealing operation. Uncle T, and then a link to the coaching staff, and then the reason Michigan stated for firing the coach was, they said it was, not being transparent in the investigation.
It ain't looking good.
But the reports were that he was destroying evidence potentially, like, hard drives, which, man, that is, now you're getting to, okay, guys. The cover-ups may be worse than the crime. Whatever this sign-stealing scheme was, you start destroying evidence from a member of the coaching staff. That obviously is a direct link to Connor Stallions, which ties it together with a booster. I mean, that becomes a major problem. And look, Rod, I really believe there will be a conversation, big picture, of do we give this team a spot in the Final Four? Now, if Ohio State beats them on Saturday, it won't matter because they'll be out. But even if they beat Ohio State and then beat Iowa in the Big Ten title game, there's going to be a conversation of do they belong?
Yeah.
With what's looming.
And there should be.
Should they give that spot to someone who's not involved in a scandal, because we all can see this coming, that they go on and win the national championship, but it may not count. Do you really want that historically? That conversation being had, and then you add to that, Rod, what happened with Florida State and their young quarterback, the 6th-year quarterback, Jordan Travis, just a horrible injury early in that game, one of those compound leg fractures, and just ugly. If you see it once, you never want to see it again kind of thing. So he is now out for the year. What a shame for a guy who was playing great football. But that obviously impacts Florida State. They play Florida this week in their rivalry game, and they'd have to play Louisville in the ACC championship game without their starting quarterback, and that's going to lead the committee to, if they go undefeated, they'll likely get in. But you're trying to get the best 4 teams.
Yep.
And is Florida State still one of the best 4 teams without their starting quarterback? So again, those are 2 teams that may be tenuous at this point. And obviously Michigan and Ohio State are going to play this week, so somebody's going to lose that game. So yeah, there's still a lot to play for, Rod. I mean, Big 12 championship and a possible, slide into a spot. You still got Washington and Oregon playing in the Pac-12 championship game down the road. They both have rivalry games coming. So still a lot of college football left. Longhorns in a really good spot.
Yeah, I mean, there's a path now to the college football playoff, and the Longhorn players can see the path.
Yeah,
you just laid it out there very clearly, and I'm sure the players are discussing it too. I remember talking about the BCS path right? When I was a player. We were a team that was a double-digit win team late in the season, and we were looking to play for a national title. So it's one of those things where the players now, because they've put in the work, they've been able to execute, they've been able to win and be clutch in critical moments. Now they actually have a chance to accomplish all their goals. Like all their goals now, even though they took the loss, everybody's going to lose a game here or there. It's hard to go undefeated. And, hopefully the teams in front of them don't, so we don't have to worry about this. But there are multiple paths now to the college football playoff for Texas, whether it be Florida State and their quarterback situation and them taking a loss, whether that be, like you said, Ohio State, Michigan still have to play each other, Michigan with their scandal. Either way, the Longhorns are, right now, to me, I think they're in control of their own fate largely. I haven't looked at the odds, but there's a really good chance that chaos will happen in front of them. That as long as they take care of business, that at one point that the path will be clear, but they have to win out. That's clear. They take another loss and they're done. Anybody taking a loss this late, it's gonna hurt you. Like you're probably gonna be out of it. It's a rare circumstance to take a loss this late and then still be able to advance. Consider this like the quarterfinals. Like right, you're in. This is basically essentially the playoff. We're in it right now. These last 2 weeks, you'll have this week the last game of the season for everybody, and then you'll have the championship games for everybody. Essentially, this kind of works out like a playoff. You're in it now. You're just in the first round of it.
Yeah, this is the
first round.
Yeah, Texas Tech becomes a playoff game.
It's the first round of it. Then you'll get to the quarterfinals, and then hopefully you can get to the semis.
Well, and for folks, getting a lot of, messages and tweets and stuff, or X's, whatever they're called, about the tiebreaker scenarios that people want to know. Well, look, essentially for the Big 12, and here's the spot they're in, and people are talking about, are they making this up as they go? Look, if Texas were to lose and Oklahoma State, and K-State were to win, there would be a 4-way tie for 2 spots. So that becomes the challenge, right? You're trying to, how do you decipher 4 different teams for 2 different spots? Because, no one is just all the way in. So you're trying to, they don't have a 4-way tiebreaker scenario. They have a 3-way tiebreaker scenario.
Multiple team tie.
This is a multiple team tie. So you have to separate them, and it becomes a real challenge. So Texas needs to avoid that because if Texas loses, there is a chance, that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State could gobble up those spots, and that would be virtue of Texas's loss to Oak State. I can walk you through it, but it's a long scenario. Because I think in the 4-way tie scenario, Rod, I'm pretty sure K-State is eliminated for the most part because they lost to Texas and they lost to Oklahoma State this year.
Yep.
So they would be kind of out. But Texas, because then it comes down to like common opponent, and then it becomes down to the record versus. Essentially, if it's Oklahoma State, and Texas is going to be out of that if they're all 7-2. K-State doesn't really have a look at this right now. They need a lot to happen for them. But if those 3 teams, the 2 Oklahoma schools in Texas, are sitting at 7-2, it's not good for Texas because of the loss to Oklahoma.
Yep.
And Oklahoma State's win over Oklahoma, essentially, is what it would come down to. The final tiebreaker when you go down the list. the Longhorn loss to the Sooners and the Oklahoma State win over the Sooners would become the trump card. So, we can walk you through it, but it makes your head spin and you're dizzy and your head hurts when that's over. But either way, beat Texas Tech is a 14.5-point favorite on your home field on a Friday night.
That's what matters.
And that you're in. And as you said, you're still alive for the bigger picture as well. And, likely going to play, Oklahoma State for the Big 12 championship, which is high times, right? Longhorns haven't been here since 2018, and even then they weren't playing for the big picture things in college football. It's been since 2009, and I know coming up in Behind the Burnt Orange Curtain, we'll hear from Steve Sarkisian. I know you'll talk about Sark and how he was one of the key to the win and his game plan in that game, and this is a high water mark for Sark too, Rod. His first 10-win season as a head coach, and we talked when the season began. Could this team hit their ceiling? Right? Could they? They looked on paper like the most talented Texas team since 2008 or 2009, and could they achieve that? And this is where you give this staff and this team credit. They still are flawed. They still have some issues in their safety position and secondary, but at the same time, they're really good in a lot of places. It's hard to win 10 games, Rod. It's hard to win double-digit games in college football, and the Longhorns have achieved that, and now they can finish it up.
Good stuff there from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rod B. We got to take a break. We'll tell you it is 23-34, UConn up right now. Texas just getting killed on the boards without Caden Shedrick and without Dylan Dessou on that team. A lot of their height not in the game, but Dylan Mitchell having a game right now. 11 points so far in the game for Dylan Mitchell, looking really good. But we'll see if Texas is able to hang on as they are getting beat up on the boards right now. We'll come back, answer some more of your text, and wrap things up for you here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Wrapping things up here on the Horn on a Monday night or Monday afternoon. A couple more texts to get to. My man Chan says, my confidence after 11 games is about 6.5 to 7. That sounds about right for you, Chan. That's pretty high for you, Chan, I feel like a little confidence for you there. We also have, you say, Brock is our biggest guy against UConn. Wow, we're shorthanded. Yes, and they are destroying Texas on the boards, but Texas hanging in there. And Dylan Mitchell having himself a game. If they hang in there, they got about 4 minutes left in the first half. Hang in there through the first half and see what you can get done at halftime. See how you feel coming out of the break. But they're playing really good defense right now. There's too many second chance opportunities for UConn because they're able to get on these boards. But they're playing really strong defense. This team is playing pretty good for a team that, a good opening run from UConn. They took the opening blow and they're trying to hang in there. 37-26 right now. But yeah, too many offensive rebounds. And then you're getting fouls on the offensive rebounds afterwards in the scrum inside. It's just happening too much. Also, text Foch says, I believe Texas believes they'll beat Tech one either way. I really felt they dominated them. Just took a while to get their stuff in order. And also says, I'm with an 8 with the team. I'm getting freaked out less and less, feeling like they got this. I'm not 100%, but they do some amazing things. Good stuff there from Foch. And a good question from one of our texters. Which team would you like to play the Horn? Would you like the Horns to play if they make the Big 12 championship? It's a good one. I think we'll talk about that tomorrow. I like that. I like that text, sir. We're going to we got to wrap up the show. We're out of here. 39-26 is the score right now. 39-29 after Brock Cunningham 3. But we'll get you up, wrap you up on the game tomorrow, and more Texas football talk coming up on the show tomorrow. Until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. on the Sports Complex.